why not just let it go into foreclosure? And if I had to give one reason why I just wouldn't let my house go back to the bank, stop making payments, and let them have it, I think that reason would probably first and foremost be that I'm a control freak. And old Janet Jackson song "Control" kind of fits in here for me. It's the first thing I think of when I hear that word. Um, Foreclosure happens to you. You don't get any say in what day the sheriff shows up, what day the notice gets posted on your house, what day you're evicted from the house. Um, it really kind of happens along the timetable that the bank wants to make it happen. And so for me, that control issue um, is a huge negative. I don't like to have things happen to me. I would prefer to be proactive. I am amazed constantly at the statistic that only 1 in 10 people will ever actually contact the bank when they get in a situation where they're behind on their mortgage. And so one of the things that I try to stress with people is you are always better off. Even if you do want to let it go to foreclosure, you're better off if you do interact with the bank, because at least in that situation you may be able to prolong the foreclosure by trying to work things out with them, even if you're not really that interested in working things out with them in the first place. So other reasons why letting it go to foreclosure may not be in your best interest. Jobs. Unfortunately, more and more employers are looking at your credit report as a reflection of who you are. And while I personally think that's disgusting, I suppose if I was letting someone handle my money, if I was dealing with a CPA or a financial advisor, I might actually be curious what their credit looks like. And if I worked for the United States government, or I was in a job where I had to have a security clearance, my credit score would probably impact my ability to get a job. Another possibility is, okay, I have a job, but my job requires a security clearance that if I were to sell this house short, my credit may not be as impacted as if I were to just let the house go to foreclosure. So I think that's something that's important to keep in mind. Here's another thought that you may or may not have thought about as far as why not letting it go to foreclosure, is your ability to buy sooner. Now, you may look at the housing market and go, I absolutely do not want to buy. Unfortunately, with the market the way it is right now, a lot of people are afraid. And I don't know that that's necessarily warranted. When you look at interest rates and prices and availability of homes, there's some great opportunities. And quite frankly, in this market, if you could buy a house for what it's on the market for today at these interest rates, your payment probably in most cases is going to be less than what you would pay to rent a similar house, depending on the price range and depending on what area you'd like to live in, of course. But buying sooner, if you let your property go to foreclosure, you would wait 1 to 3 years even to buy with an FHA mortgage, which is one of the most lenient types of mortgages to qualify for as far as credit. If you were to short sale that property, depending on your situation, depending on how far away from your prior property you moved, you could actually buy the very next day after selling short. Next day, 1 year, maybe as many as 3 years. That's a pretty big difference. Conventional loan, if you were trying to get a conventional loan and you were to allow your property to go into foreclosure and just let the bank have it, you're looking at a minimum of 3 to 7 years. Plus, you're going to be required to have a larger down payment, at least a minimum of 10%. And if you short sale the property, I know this sounds like a long time, but you're only looking at a couple years. And if you are interested in buying again, most people believe that the housing market will improve, but not in the short term. And even here in the Puget Sound area, I think you'd be safe even if it meant you had to wait a couple of years. So here's something else to keep in mind. Selling short, depending on your exact situation and whether you've already missed payments, already missed a lot of payments, or you're still current on your mortgage, is going to affect your credit score. A lot of people think that your credit score and short sale don't go together. Well, I can tell you this. If you are able to sell your property short without missing any payments, because the rest of your situation warrants the lender looking at that option, your credit score may not be impacted much, if any. However, you are going to have remarks on your credit report that indicate what happened to some degree. It's going to say settled in full for less than the full amount, or depending on exactly how that lender wants to report that, it may be slightly different than that. But you have to separate the idea of credit score versus remarks. When it comes to jobs, security clearance, when it comes to being able to buy a car, getting insurance, all those sorts of things that are actually based on your credit report, your score is going to have more impact than the remarks. Most people are not going to look at the remarks. When you go to buy a house again, yes, they will look at the remarks, but if your score is too low, no matter what the remarks say, it's not going to matter. So here's the last thing I want to talk about when it comes to why not let it go to foreclosure. Probably the biggest one, in a foreclosure situation, there's a definite timeline of when things are likely to happen, how fast the lender can make them happen if they would like. In a short sale, it's less of a known time factor. And most of our clients that are looking at a short sale, they're looking at least 3 to 4 months from the time they get an offer, and usually after about month 2 or 3 that offer is approved, and then the buyer has another 30 days before they have to be out of the property. And so in that situation, I think you actually typically will wind up getting more time in the house, because you could be, I won't take on a short sale that's too close to a foreclosure date, but let's say that you've already got your notice of default. Somebody's already mailed you an official thing that looks like it's maybe even registered or could be recorded at the courthouse. That's usually your notice of default. And if you got one of those, and maybe even your notice to foreclose, where they actually tell you on this date your house will be auctioned off, you're a candidate that I'd probably still be willing to take on depending on your situation. And if it takes us a month after that foreclosure date to get an offer in place and to start to submit all your paperwork and get the lender to look at it, you're going to drag the process out. Whether that sale goes through or not, you're going to drag it out a lot longer, and you're going to know that you did everything you can to try to lessen the effects to your credit, to your personal life, to your family, possibly your job situation. And in the long run, I'd like to think that you do everything you can to protect your reputation and your credit. And a lot of my friends just call it doing the right thing. I've even heard clients say that one of the reasons they sell short as opposed to just letting it go to foreclosure is they want to be able to walk back into the neighborhood and not have people think less of them. It's pretty obvious when a house gets foreclosed on. There's notices on the house becomes vacant, the grass grows long, the bank usually doesn't do anything to maintain it, it sits empty for a couple, 3 months, 4 or 5 months. They change the locks, you can tell the doorknob's different, there's a sticker on the front door that says the property's been winterized. All those things make it difficult for you to go back and face your neighbors again. If you're selling short, the public doesn't have to know that you're selling short. In fact, the only people that know for sure that your house is a short sale are your lender, the realtor who's helping you. The rest of the realtor community will know as well, but the general public who's looking for a house does not know if you're a short sale unless they contact a realtor to find out. So if you're ashamed of letting your house go to foreclosure, and quite frankly, I think that's the #1 reason that people don't deal with the problem of getting behind, Short sale is nice from the standpoint of it allows you some dignity and some control over what happens to you. And I think those are all good things. And so when people ask me, why shouldn't I just let it go to foreclosure? These are the types of reasons I give them. Again, as always, everybody's situation is unique, and your situation, foreclosure may be the best option.